Hey all, so 6.1 has been an amazing patch. It completely lived up to the hype for me. In fact, something in this patch that I usually don't pay any mind to completely took me by surprise with just how much fun I was having with it. But I'll get more into that a bit later. So let's just get right into the MSQ. I won't spoil anything here, but I will say that the possibilities that have been opened up are amazing, and I cannot wait to see where this is going. The Rollmaster quest, which you unlock by completing all of the role quests in Endwalker, was also very good. The solo duty at the end of this quest was also really good. The solo duties in Endwalker, in general, have all been, well, very good, but this one is my new favorite. I just wish there was an easier way to redo them. You know, besides New Game Plus and having to do the entire plotline again. Wouldn't it be a nice feature if you could just instantly replay whatever solo duty whenever you wanted? The new 4-man dungeon that came with the patch was also a great bit of fun, and I can't wait to see how some of the environments in there will look when they upgrade their textures in the future, particularly the reflections on metals. Soken, as always, did an amazing job with the music in here. I just love how he's able to incorporate different themes that we've heard before in new and interesting ways. What really shined, at least to me, were the boss fights, which all had interesting mechanics and, most importantly, were fun to fight. The last boss in particular had such a fun and unique mechanic where he wraps you up in silk and then spins you like a record. And then you have to navigate your character. The controls are, a bit strange. You turn very wide and have to take that into consideration, while dodging spikes and other bad stuff. But it's just so much fun, and I really do hope that this mechanic gets repurposed and reused in interesting ways for future boss encounters. Speaking of dungeons, A Realm Reborn dungeons got the trust support system added to them, and some of the dungeons received some upgrades to textures, lighting, as well as pacing. But the biggest changes were put into the Castrum Meridium and Praetorium, the two big MSQ-related dungeons at the end of 2.0. Not only were these changed from 8-man raids into 4-man dungeons, but they made other significant changes as well. The pacing in the dungeons were vastly improved. For example, in Castrum Meridium, you no longer have to knock out the searchlights, or get the explosives for those pipes, and the annoying shield boss was removed, and a lot of backtracking was also taken out. They also removed several cutscenes that added nothing to the experience. They just slowed the dungeon down to a screeching halt. The Praetorium got a very similar treatment. For one, they took out the ultimate weapon fight from the dungeon and made it its own separate dungeon. More like a 4-man trial, really. They also took out the elevators, which is something I think will be very helpful in future runs. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen players miss the elevator, myself included. Not only that, you no longer have to gather the keys to open doors, or to attune to the mech. Yet again, how many times have you seen a player go, "Damn, I forgot to attune," or sometimes you even forget yourself. Sometimes what was on Netflix may have been a bit too distracting. Another change is you have to defeat all the enemies before the path opens up. Before, you could ignore a lot of the enemies, which would often lead to newer players dying and having a bad experience. I think this is overall a good change, but I can see why some may see it as a negative one. The best change, in my opinion, is that the boss fights in these dungeons were completely revamped. They were given mechanics that you might expect to see in current expansions, which I think really helps make these dungeons much more fun. The big example I'll give here is Livia in Castrum Meridium. Before 6.1, she started off on her mech, and it was this big slog of a boss fight where you needed to destroy the mech with guided missiles. The adds in the fight were mostly pointless, then the second phase was a boring tank and spank that was over before it ever began. In the revamp, it's a completely different encounter. She has this really cool ground AoE dance that she does, and it's very similar to the Magus Sister fight. You have to pay attention to the order that the AoEs came out in, dance around them, and it's very engaging and fun to do. The other cool thing is that they gave her abilities that she used in her Aidoscope dungeon encounter. It gives the fight so much more synergy than they had before, and I really like that. Lastly, they changed some of the dialogue in the cutscenes. If you haven't done these dungeons in a while, I really do think they are worth giving a try, at least to see how cool the new boss encounters are. Like I said, they all got revamped, so it's a very different experience. The new Alliance raid was also amazing. The dungeon itself is gorgeous. I am a sucker for the aesthetic. It's one of my favorites, so I was in heaven here, literally. The music in this raid is just so majestic. You feel like you are actually in the presence of the 12. Soken is the real god of music here, and he never disappoints. The boss fights were the real star here, and they were all really good and tons of fun. But the one that had me the most excited was the second fight, against Ralger. The reason is that the arena was just so interesting. It wasn't just a square or a circle. You fought him on a hand. You could run along the fingers. A different arena shape? My god, I never knew how much I wanted that until they gave it to us. The way they used the arena in the encounter was also really cool. Now, I ain't too shy to say this, but my first time running the dungeon, I was seriously humbled. I died multiple times on every single encounter. So yeah, the Alliance raid is certainly no pushover. The encounters have mechanics that can easily take you out. But I love that. For me, it's fun to see personal progress, and to be able to count down how many times I die each encounter, until I get that number down to 0. And then, work on getting my vulnerability count down to 0. And then, after that, getting better and better at my uptime, improving my DPS. When an encounter is fun, you enjoy doing them over and over again, and the Alliance raid encounters are certainly fun. The Endsinger Extreme fight is the last dungeon-related thing to talk about, and learning this fight was the most fun I had in the patch so far. The encounter just has so many interesting mechanics added to it, and I loved learning every single one of them until that sweet victory. So, the fight has a lot of different things going on. You have to be good at positioning your character for knockbacks, have strong situational awareness so that you aren't getting knocked around by several telegraphed attacks, and it has a memory game attached. So, you have to be really good at paying attention to what's going on, and remember what happened as well. But boy does it feel rewarding when you finally get all the mechanics figured out and get that win. It's genuinely a fun fight. Lots of movement and things to pay attention to, and I have done it many times already. No luck on the mount, of course, but I have several weapons ready for alts, so I am not at all bitter. So the thing that I said I'd cover later is the thing that caught me completely by surprise, and that was the PvP revamp. I don't generally enjoy MMO PvP, but I always like to give it a fair shake despite how I usually feel about it. So what 6.1 did for PvP blew me away, because I actually was having fun with it. The changes to the job actions and the addition of crystalline conflict, well, I've been sold on it. The reason I think I enjoy the PvP so much is it's been extremely streamlined. So in Final Fantasy XIV, you have separate job actions for PvP. It can be a little confusing when you first start and have to set up your hotbars for it, but for my red mage, as an example, it was only 13 actions, 3 of which are attacks, and the rest are cooldowns and utility. Now, there are familiar abilities that you use in PvE that are also used in PvP, but just keep in mind that the way they are used may be a little bit different, so just make sure to go on and read the tooltips first. The other nice thing is that so many of the abilities are on very short cooldowns, so you always feel like you are able to do something. Now, as for Crystalline Conflict, it's a very simple game with a very simple objective, but I think that's fine, and if something is fun, isn't that all that matters? It doesn't have to be a super complicated game. Your objective is to escort a crystal to the other player's side, by keeping your party within the vicinity of the crystal. That's about it. Now, they do spice things up in some of the arenas by having environmental hazards, my favorite being the Bomberman-like explosions. This occurs in the Volcanic Heart arena, and what you have to do is make sure that when you see a bomb, that you're not standing in those cardinal directions. The other nice thing is that the matches tend to be very short, so even if you lose, it doesn't feel so bad, and you still get a good reward just for participating. So I should be clear here. This is the only form of PvP that I enjoy in Final Fantasy XIV. I have tried Frontlines, and I just don't like it. It's way too chaotic for me. It has 72 players involved, spread across 3 teams, and yeah, it's just not for me. I'm not sure about Rival Wings, I've never tried it in the past, and it's currently unavailable, but I am willing to give it a go once it's released. I really do hope that they keep adding more and more of these 5v5 battleground type arenas, because they are a lot of fun, and I think they have something special here. And that's 6.1. What a great patch. So much good stuff in here, and the good news is, it's not done yet. We still have the Ultimate Raid coming soon, as well as that Tataru questline, and the new Hildebrand questline, as well as the new Tribe dailies. So, still a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. Anyways, I hope you were all having a great time with the patch. If you liked what you saw and would like to see more, please consider leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and take care!